Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So we're going to build off of what we did 2 weeks ago with the Pythagorean theorem. So before spring break, we learned that any right triangle we can label as A and B for these words, the legs. And the longest side we can label C, which is going to be the hypotenuse. And we learned the hypotenuse means the longest side. So 2 weeks ago, anytime I gave you guys a right triangle, I asked you to find either A, B, or C using this formula right here. A squared plus B squared equals C squared, right? So that was really Math 8 stuff. We're going to jump into some Math 1 stuff. So this is something that you guys probably would have seen on your EOG, something like this. So what it is 2 points on a coordinate plane. Now this doesn't look like a right triangle right away, but I can see that I can make it into a right triangle really easily. So if I connect a straight line and then a horizontal line, I can see that I've made a right triangle. There's a second way to do this that works just the same. So this is way one. And the second right triangle I could draw goes up. So vertical first and then horizontal. That and the first way both work as right triangles. So either one works. I'm going to draw mine right side up. So I'm going to label my right triangle and then my A, B, and C. So I know my legs, the horizontal and the vertical line, are A and B. And right across from the right angle is the value C. Now, since it's on the coordinate plane, I can easily figure out what A and B are simply by counting. So 1, 2, 3, 4. My leg for A is a length of 4. B is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can label it here. And I can't just count like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because I can't count diagonally. So what I need to do now is use the Pythagorean theorem to find out my hypotenuse. So I'm going to use my calculator. And remember, it's a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So a squared, 4 squared plus b squared. So that's going to be 6 squared equals 52. So using my formula, I have a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This over here, we found out equals 52, just like on my calculator on Desmo. So right here, 52. Now, finally, on this side, to get c by itself, I have to do the opposite of a square, which is a square root. These cancel. I get c by itself, and let's use the calculator to find out what the square root of 52 is. So square root 52 equals 7.2. So my C value is going to be 7.2. I'm going to put that over here. And last question you can ask yourself is, does this make sense? If my hypotenuse is 7.2, it needs to be the longest side out of 4 and 6, and it is, so that's going to be my final answer. Right here, can you draw a right triangle? Can you imagine what that's going to look like? 2 ways to draw it. I can draw it up and over, or I can draw it down and over. Either way works. Let's try the opposite this time. So kind of different than what we did last time. I'm going to go horizontal first and then diagonal. I want you guys to figure out, go ahead and pause the video, what A and B are. All right, and when you guys should have done that, 1, 2, 3, 4. This one is going to be a length of 4 going down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is a length of 6, and C is what we are trying to figure out. So go ahead and pause the video, and I want you guys to tell me using Pythagorean theorem what the length of the blue side is going to be. Okay, now when I do that, let's set it up. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, on my calculator, I set this up really quick. 4 squared plus 6 squared equals 52. All right, so this matches the last one. 4 and 6, and this one just happens to also be 4 and 6, so we know we're going to get the exact same answer. When I do that, 52 on this side equals c squared. I take the square root, to get c by itself, these cancel, I have c, and we can just use the slide from last time. The square root of 52 is 7.2. So coincidentally, this is also going to be 7.2 as your final answer. All right, and this one right here. So this is like a level 1. We're going to jump to a level 2. What happens if they give us coordinates but no coordinate plane? So they're not giving us 2 points and connecting it for us. They're just giving us 2 points without a graph. So the easiest thing to realize is that on a coordinate plane, let's say I have a right triangle that looks like this. We know that this length is the vertical distance. So this is the difference in y. We know this leg over here is horizontal, and it's going to be the difference in x. The reason that that is true is because the y-axis goes up and down, while the x-axis goes side to side. So what that means is to find how far up and down it goes. So let's pretend that this purple line are the points. To figure out how far it is up and down, I take the difference of the y values. So what is the difference between 7 and 3? Well, 7 minus 3 is 4. So I know my vertical distance is going to be 4. If I'm trying to find my horizontal distance, that's going to be the differences in x. So what is the difference between -2 and -1? How many numbers are in between -2 and -1? So I could do -2 minus -1, and that equals -1. Or I could do -1 minus -2, and that equals +1. In this case, negatives don't matter. This is going to be 1. Just the distance between -2 and -1 is just going to be a value of 1. So I know that my triangle might look something like this. A 4 for the difference for y's, a 1 for the difference of x's, and I'm still trying to find out what c equals. So if I set that up, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. And remember that these can go in whatever order you want. The 4 could go first if you wanted. When I set that up on my calculator, well, I can do this in my head. 1 squared is 1, 4 squared is 16. That equals c squared. 1 plus 16 is 17, which equals c squared. And to do my last step, I undo the square by taking the square root. These cancel, and I have c equals the square root of 17. So what is the square root of 17? 4.1. So my c value is going to be 4.1. Does that make sense for the hypotenuse? Yes, it does, because it's larger than this value and this value. All right, so just to double check to make sure that my explanation made sense to you guys, this is what I mean. This same problem, -2, 3, and -1, 7, if I plotted those points, this would be -2, 3, and this would be -1, 7. What I was saying is that the difference, the vertical distance between 3 and 7 was going to be 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the horizontal distance between -2 and -1 right here was just going to be 1. So that's why our triangle looked like 4 on the side, 1 on the bottom, and we were solving for the diagonal. So just one last peek here. Okay, and then our last one, we're not going to use a graph here. I want you guys to tell me the vertical distance and the horizontal distance. So let's just draw a triangle, any triangle. We know we're trying to find the distance between 2 points. And then I want to find this distance, the x, and then the vertical distance, the y. So what is the distance between -5 and -3? Even if I think on a number line, how many numbers separate them? -5, right? And then I go -4, -3. So it's just 2 values that separate it. And then what is the distance for my x values? X is 8, and then x is -1. Well, that would be 9. So I know my triangle has 9 and 2 as legs, and I'm solving for the hypotenuse. When I do that, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. Let's do this in our heads. 9 squared is 81. 2 squared is 4. That equals c squared. 81 plus 4 is 85. That equals c squared. Take the square root to get c by itself. My c value is the square root of 85. That's going to be 9.2. And last step, does that make sense? So if I put a 9.2 here, is that going to be the hypotenuse? It is, because it's bigger than 9 and 2. So my final answer is that. All right, so that was our quick lesson today. What you guys are expected to do, very easy, go formative. There are 6 questions with the coordinate plane, and then 6 questions without the coordinate plane. If you guys want to, when you're done, for some bonus questions, okay, well, after this, so you guys have your go formative, and then there's also a bonus optional one if you guys would like to do that. All right, so reach out if you guys have questions, but go ahead and get started.